Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. You know, the truth will eventually show up at a party. True, it's true. The truth will show up late, but will show up. In this case, both parties on this war, the Ukrainian side, NATO and all that, and the Russians, are keeping or are preventing the truth to show up. And the truth will show up, but as I said, late. In this case, we have a situation in Kharkiv Oblast and in the city of Kupiansk. We've been told that the Russians are losing over and over again. And then again, we were told that the Russian new offensive stalled and is nothing and it's inefficient. Which, if I look over the map, it seems to be so. But then you find out, that eventually they have to let the truth come out. And the truth is that the Russians are little by little gaining territory that they lost during the counteroffensive that the Ukrainians conducted in September 2022. And I'm talking about Kupiansk. I have here an article from the Kiev Independent that states that Kharkiv Oblast administration orders partial mandatory evacuation of Kupiansk. That is something that the Russians conquered at the beginning of the military special operation, and then they lost. And now again, it seems like, if you evacuate, that means things are not doing very well for you over there. So let's start this article. As I said, it comes from Kiev Independent from March 3rd, 2023. Kharkiv Oblast administration orders partial mandatory evacuation of Kupiansk. Now, where is Kupiansk? Let's go on this little map. All right, so this is Ukraine here. This is what the Russians, got already. And then you have here, right here, I'm going to go in the Kharkov, but it's Kharkiv, the Russian Kharkiv Oblast. I'm going to go here, and it's going to be right here, Kupiansk, by Kurilovka. Kurilovka is how the Russians, right here, main thing, Kupiansk is over there. So if you see right here, this is what the Russians, according to the Russians, already were able to conquer. You say, well, what the hell is this? Well, if you see here, there's a little water here, okay, right here. You see it? That rounds down all this. You see it going down, going down? Well, that's not very easy to cross that. So you will put your defenses behind that. So that's where the Russians are right now. As I said, Kupiansk is right here, so that means the Russians are going to come closer, or at least Kupiansk is definitely in the shelling distance of the Russian artillery. So after Kupiansk, you say, well, what the hell, look how far is Kharkov. Yeah, but I don't know if I see anything else but this right here, another body of water that is going to be hard to cross. So let's go back and see what this article tells us. On March 2nd, the military administration of Kharkiv Oblast ordered a partial mandatory evacuation for families with children and residents with physical disabilities in Kupiansk. What about mental disabilities? Do they count or no? If not, it's kind of like, you know what I mean? Now, the decision, I'm kidding. The decision, according to the announcement, was made, and I'm quoting, in light of the unstable security situation caused by the constant shelling of the community by Russian troops. Did it start yesterday? Or you decided today to get them out? Or it started a long time ago? Well, I think it's a new development, but hey. Kharkiv Oblast Governor Oleg Sinyehubov promised that all evacuees will be provided with relocation assistance in a safer part of the oblast. The announcement also states that residents will be evacuated free of charge. You know who's paying? You know who's paying? Do you own a mirror? If you own a mirror, you own the answer. All right? You say, hey, how is that possible? Well, I have to remind you that the Biden administration, if you're a U.S. citizen, paid $270 million so far for the administration and all these things. And now, not the current aid, which is, I think, the new one is $400 million from Biden's sock. He just put it out of his sock and say, here you go, Ukraine. They paid the other one that they just issued a week ago. Part of that is $250 million for the same thing. So the Ukrainian government and the functions of operating, smoothly, the government, schools, first responders and police, as functional, is paid by. I made videos on that, and the articles are available if you just do a little clicks, click, click, look, look, and you're gonna find out. So yeah, it's free of charge. Now I understand the situation is as it is, and I can't be so heartless, you know what I mean? But on the other hand, it's not really. How should I put it? It's heartless, but if you turn the tables, who helps us? And if you say we don't need help, then you're heartless as well. So, it seems like we have to help some without being asked if you want to. That's another thing. And for a situation created not by me, but I'm paying. At least ask me so I can say no, and then I can say, I just asked you just for a formality anyway. And I know, and we play the game, but at least ask. Not even that. Let's go back here. And remember, there are so many people dying on this planet that we don't lift a finger to help, including people in United States of America. And we don't do a lot of things with, people with fentanyl overdosing. That's one example. Homeless people, people who have crappy paid jobs for working like slaves. Not even, because the slaves were not paid anyway. But the ones they get back is just to survive. And I'm quoting, residents of Kupiansk will be provided with accommodation and food. They will also be provided with humanitarian aid and medical support. Appropriate social services will help in obtaining the status of internally displaced person, financial support under state programs, and assistance from international organizations. Yeah, I would, stop the situation instead of doing all this BS here. Stop the whole thing over there. 812 children, what the hell, children. 724 persons with disabilities, 140 of whom are immobile, are registered residents in Kupiansk. Kupiansk was liberated from Russian occupation in September 2022. The city and other surrounding areas of Kharkiv Oblast, due to its close proximity to the border, have been under constant attack since the start of the full-scale invasion. On February 28th, okay, that's something else that we don't get into. So, little by little you find out that the Russians actually are doing something. Something that they benefit, or at least they have some success in. Whereas this guy's success is the other guy's defeat. What can I say? It's the Russians are advancing slower than people expected, but on the other hand, when people say, well, the Russian military is not as tough as we thought, or they said it is, well, you're not fighting Ukraine here. You have to start with that one. You're fighting about 50 countries that are involved in this economically, financially, militarily, even with personnel, with training and all that. So you don't fight one country. I mean, one-on-one, yes, that happened, that ended actually in February. If you remember, in March, In March 2022, the Ukrainians and the Russians had 5 meetings from February 24th until the last meeting that they had in Turkey. They had 5 meetings to discuss negotiation and so on. And everything was stopped by whom? So by that time, the Ukraine was done. or at least I don't know if it was a determination from the West saying, you know what, we're gonna give you everything, just fight. And then the other Ukrainians said, you know what, the Ukrainians, the guys in charge of Ukraine, let's put it this way, you know, we're gonna negotiate with Russia. Are you gonna give us everything we want, or we're gonna negotiate with Russia? That's a blackmail, you know. And the other one say, well, you know what, we're gonna give you everything you want. Okay, no more negotiations. Bring it on. It looks like it was something like that, because after that time, that moment, Ukrainians had anything they wanted, little by little by little by little. We got to the point where they're discussing sending warplanes. I mean, you got in the intelligence, you got trainers, you got tanks, you got, which again, my point was, Russia is not fighting Ukraine. Russia is fighting the other guys, you know, and somehow the other guys turn everything into, it's a fight for freedom, actually. So we should support their fight in Ukraine against the evil Russians, because we actually fight for our own freedoms. So we should zip it, because if the Ukrainians lose over there, the next second we will be in shackles. Well, I don't believe that, and I might be arrested for that in the near future if things continue the direction they are taking. But who cares? You have only one life, at least I do. I don't know about you guys, but I don't bet on more than one. So leave it as you wish, and make your own destiny. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.